So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that a brother or a sister has something against you, leave it there and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then put your gift on the altar. Please be seated. If you want to talk about hot button issues, you come to the right place. Church on Sundays is seldom for the faint of heart. You may have noted that in today's lessons. How many things did we just blow up in front of our faces? We actually didn't. Jesus did. Jesus knew that these tough issues, that these very real issues are a part of our lives. And so, the flame is hot. And church is not the place to wear our Sunday best. It cannot protect us from the truth and the reality of our lives. Think about it. Today we have discussed murder and judgment, and even the thoughts of anger. We've talked about lust and adultery and divorce. And we've talked about lies upon lies upon lies, and even the religious authorities. Even the religious authorities have been caught barehanded. Everywhere you go, religion, politics, and sex, we can't hide from today. This human reality is here with us. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to set those hot button issues right over here. Don't worry, we're going to get back to them. We're going to park them to the side and let that flame hopefully just die down just a little bit. And we will return to it. So as Jesus was sitting on the mountain in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, which is today, we're in the middle of that, which we call the most beloved teachings of Jesus. These are beloved teachings, right? And I have to say, okay, with a little bit of a laugh, we like to think it's just the Beatitudes. No, it continues, including this. So Jesus is sitting there, teaching, inviting his disciples into a conversation about all of these things, and there is an assumption going on. An unspoken reality that Jesus knew, that everybody knew, that there was a way of life in the midst of all that they were experiencing. And it's called love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength, and all your soul. And there is this: love your neighbor as yourself. That assumption was deeply embedded and expected, that Jesus knew and that everyone else knew and lived by. Love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself. And underneath us, Jesus assumed we're the pillars of that which we stand on. But sometimes, he said, it gets a little bit shaken. Some cracks appear. Maybe it's just sand. But it is there, that unspoken truth. Jesus knew, because he too was a Jew, that what you did is you went to the altar. That you went to that place to offer a gift of thanksgiving, a gift of contrition, a gift of repentance, a gift at the birth of a child, the male child, on the 8th day. That is what you are to do. You are to go to the altar. And this table behind us that we go to comes from that time. It takes a different shape as things do. But that is where they were going with their gift. They knew what it meant to go in heart and in head. That was the relationship with God, and Jesus knew that everyone knew that that is why they were there. Loving your neighbor as yourself. These two commandments come from Leviticus. And Jesus repeats them a little further down the road in the Gospel of Matthew. It was so central that we are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves because God loved us first. That which we do guides everything. That was the unspoken assumption about all that we do today. Everything, without question. And he named it sometimes that earthquake happens. Now, if we take back a look at these hot button issues, the fire may now have just calmed down a little bit. They no longer may hold that anger, that frustration, that confusion as when Zarina was reading this gospel. Like, oh my gosh, what's Jesus saying? He is not saying cut off your hand when you have anger in your heart. He is not saying that we need to do these pieces of corporal punishment to ourselves. He said, go. First, be reconciled. First, that thing which is so core, so central to the entire life of being Jewish, that you go to the altar and you go to your companion, whoever that companion is, whoever that neighbor happens to be. And we have done so much work as a society to name our neighbor. It's not just our spouse. It's not just our children. It's not just those who live next door. It's everybody. And that truth and that reality, Jesus said, those are the issues that matter because you're going to the altar. Guess what? You're coming here. This is the given. And the other is that you will do everything within your power. And there will be no need. And that Jesus never meant it to cut off our hands. He didn't want our eyes plucked out because we looked at someone in a way that may not be consistent with our beliefs or our values. Jesus said, love your neighbor. Leave your gift and go. Be one. Sow it together. Before each one of his statements today, Jesus said, you may have heard it said by the ancients. You may have heard that it was said in the commandments, those 10 commandments. You may have heard it said by the ancients. And then he continues. Well, guess what? Those ancients, yes. They still speak today. We just heard them. Instead of Moses in Deuteronomy, at that section, we could have gone back to Deuteronomy 6 or Exodus. How many, James? It's Exodus 9, right? And the other times of the commandments, he tells them twice. Then I've got the numbers, I think, wrong in the chapters. But he assumes that everyone knows those and is going to follow. He says, when we are human, we go there to that brokenness before we go to that altar, before we offer that gift that God wants us to give. The ancients knew that. Jesus knows that. And we today know what that means as well, because life has taught us and continues to teach us about that. Corporal punishment isn't necessary. Binding together is. These flames and the fear that they offer, I hope, have calmed down. Because that journey to the altar may just empower us to take the journey to our name. Amen.